ویلکم ٹو نیوز وائز، میں ہوں عارفہ نور۔ آج پروگرام میں ہم بات کریں گے یوکرین کے حوالے سے۔ یہ ایک بہت اہم موضوع ہے کیونکہ گزشتہ روز جو یوکرین کے وزیر خارجہ ہیں ڈمیٹرو کلیبا، وہ 2 دن کے دورے پہ پاکستان آئے ہیں۔ کہا یہ جا رہا ہے کہ یہ یوکرین کی طرف سے اتنے ایک اہم آفیشل کا دورہ پاکستان کا جو ہے 90 کی دہائی کے بعد ہوا ہے، اور یہ وقت بھی بہت اہم ہے۔ یوکرین کی اس وقت روس سے ایک جنگ جاری ہے، ساری دنیا کو ہم کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ اس جنگ نے اپنی لپیٹ پر لیا ہوا ہے۔ اب بات ہو رہی ہے یونی پولر ورلڈ کی، بائی پولر، ملٹی پولر ورلڈ کی، دنیا کی سیاست کس طرح تبدیل ہو گئی ہے، اور ایک اتنے اہم موقع پر ایک ایسا ملک جو جنگ میں ملوث ہے، ان کے وزیر خارجہ پاکستان کا دورہ کر رہے ہیں۔ سوال تو اٹھ رہے ہیں، پوچھے جا رہے ہیں کہ اس وقت پاکستان کی یہ وزٹ جو ہے اس کی اہمیت کیا ہے۔ کہنا ضروری یہ بھی ہے یہاں کہ obviously اگر ہم نظر دوڑاتے ہیں یوکرین اور پاکستان کے تعلقات پہ، تو جو بائی لیٹرل ریلیشن شپ ہے اس کے بارے میں عام تاثر یہ ہے کہ یہ ایک بہت اہم ڈیفنس ریلیشن شپ ہے۔ بار بار ذکر ہوتا ہے کہ یہ ریلیشن شپ جو ہے اس کا ایک بہت اہم حصہ جو ہے اس کا تعلق ڈیفنس سے ہے، اور obviously جب بھی ہماری جو تعلقات کا ذکر ہوتا ہے تو آرمز ڈیلز کی بات ہوتی ہیں۔ ہم نے پچھلے دنوں میں بھی ٹینکس خریدے ہیں یوکرین سے ہماری فوج نے، اور جب سے یہ جنگ شروع ہوئی ہے روس اور یوکرین کی تو بار بار قیاس آرائی ہو رہی ہے، عالمی میڈیا میں ذکر ہو رہا ہے کہ پاکستان کسی طرح سے روس کی مدد، یوکرین کی معاف کریے گا، مدد کر رہا ہے، اور یہ جو مدد ہے یہ ہیومینیٹیرین صرف نہیں ہے، اس کے اندر ڈیفنس کا بھی کوئی عنصر شامل ہے۔ آرمز کا ذکر ہوتا ہے کہ ایمیونیشن دی جا رہی ہے، اور یہ بار بار پاکستان کے تردید کرنے کے باوجود یہ جو قیاس آرائی ہے یہ چلتی جا رہی ہے، اور یہ بہت اہم اس لیے بھی ہے کیونکہ آفیشلی پاکستان جو ہے اس کا یہ موقف ہے کہ وہ اس جنگ میں کسی بھی فریق کی طرفداری نہیں کرنا چاہتا۔ جب بھی اس حوالے سے رشیا کی کوئی کنڈمنیشن کی بھی اگر آئی ہے ریزولوشن عالمی پلیٹ فارمز میں، تو پاکستان نے اس میں ووٹ نہیں کیا۔ تو بہت ایشوز اس طرح کے جو ہیں ان کی بھی بات کی جائے گی۔ پھر ہم بات کریں گے کہ یوکرین اس جنگ کو کس طرح دیکھ رہا ہے، اس کا آؤٹ کم جو ہے ان کے خیال میں کیا ہو سکتا ہے۔ یورپ اور رشیا جو ہیں، یورپ کے ساتھ جو تعلقات ہیں یوکرین کے، ان میں کیا تبدیلی آ سکتی ہے، یورپین یونین کی ممبرشپ کا بھی حوالہ ہے۔ رشیا کے جو تعلقات ہیں یورپ سے وہ اس جنگ کی وجہ سے جو خراب ہوئے ہیں، کیا ان میں کوئی بہتری آ سکتی ہے؟ ان سب سوالوں کے جواب ہم لیں گے، بٹ آفٹر اے شارٹ بریک، اسٹے ود اس۔ ویلکم بیک۔ We are talking to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Mr. Dmytro Kuleba. We'll be talking about Pakistan's relationship with Ukraine, especially since the beginning of the war, and then Ukraine's relationship with Europe and the West, and of course the outcome of the war, if there is one. Welcome, Minister. You're here in Pakistan. Apparently this is the first high-profile visit since the early 90s. So would you like to comment on why, I mean everybody's asking this question, why in the middle of a war would the Ukrainian foreign minister visit Pakistan of all places at such an important juncture?
Well, I'm visiting friends because war is not the reason to bury relations and to forget about relations with partners and friends. And yes, I'm the first foreign minister to visit Pakistan since Ukraine's independence. But the relationship that we've had since 1991, when Ukraine gained independence, was always very fruitful and productive, and both our countries benefited from it. So I think that we need more political contacts and visits between our countries. And I hope when everyone is asking the question why now, it's not because people are not happy to see Ukrainian high officials in Pakistan, but because they believe, like we do, that this should have happened much earlier.
Minister, there's this perception, at least in Pakistan, that Pakistan's relationship with Ukraine is, dominated by defense affairs. There is obviously a lot of talk of the tanks that Ukraine sold Pakistan in the past, recent past, which of course are a very important component of the military. And combined with that, especially since the war started, there are a lot of rumors about Pakistan transferring arms or helping the West. Would you like to comment on this?
Well, it is true that in the early 90s, Ukraine and Pakistan engaged in the military and defense cooperation, which helped Pakistan to significantly strengthen its capacity to defend the country. And your Al-Hadid tank came to life, is the child of our bilateral cooperation, and we were happy to help you. But it's an exaggeration to say that defense is the only big issue, the only big project in our relationship. I will recall just one fact. 2 years ago, it was Ukrainian traders who helped Pakistan solve the floor crisis. It was Ukraine who provided Pakistan with more than 1 million tons of grain, helping to your government to solve crisis and keep food prices under control. So this is another big example of our cooperation. Pakistani students, thousands of them, were studying in Ukraine before the war started. Coming back to defense sector, we don't have neither private nor government-to-government arrangements with Pakistan on the delivery of any types of weapons or ammunition to Ukraine. And as of now, the content of our defense cooperation is actually continuation of the contracts signed in 90s and ever after to develop, to maintain and upgrade your tanks and other types of military equipment. So it's actually us who are still helping you to strengthen your defense capabilities.
Minister, but there have been a lot of, I would say, rumors. There have been reports in publications which are perhaps not so reliable. And of course, even a report in the BBC which sort of hinted at the help that Pakistan may be providing. And Pakistan has denied this again and again. There was a BBC report which was basically a reporter who was there, a correspondent who was there with the Ukrainian forces, where he quotes a military official as saying, "We've gotten rockets from Pakistan." There have been very unreliable websites which have again and again brought this up. Is there a reason for these kind of reports to continue despite the constant contradictions from the Pakistani side?
Well, since the beginning of the large-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine, we see endless systemic efforts of Russian intelligence and disinformation units to undermine by all means good relations that Ukraine enjoys with various countries across the globe, including Pakistan. When it comes to BBC, we respect all media who stick to standards, but life has shown on numerous occasions that even the most advanced media and journalists sometimes can make mistakes. We have, if one bases his information on what one person said, I think this is not enough to make any conclusions on what is happening. I said what I said, that the only contracts that Ukraine and Pakistan have and work on are the contracts related to the defense cooperation started in 1996 between our countries with regard to the implementation of tank contracts.
Pakistan has always, since this conflict has begun, Pakistan has tried to take a very balanced position, if I may say so. It has, tried not to vote against one country or the other. There have been resolutions that have been passed by international platforms condemning Russia. Pakistan has tried to stay away. Can one say that this is something that would have come up or will come up during your conversations with your counterparts on this trip?
Indeed, since we are friends, we can allow having a very candid conversation. And one of the issues that I brought in my meetings in Pakistan, and I will be bringing it up in all other meetings that will be taking place after we do the interview, is Ukraine's expectation that Pakistan will be voting in favor of resolutions defending Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and also aiming at restoring just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Because these resolutions are based on rock-solid ground of international law, and we believe that Pakistan is also the country that respects territorial integrity and that is interested in respect to international law when it comes to these issues.
Will you be making trips to other countries within the region? Because obviously, earlier there were reports reaching out to African countries on the issue. So perhaps is this just a effort that you're making with Pakistan, or will we see you making trips in the coming future to other countries within the region?
Well, it's not easy to travel from Ukraine these days because since the beginning of the large-scale invasion, Russia has been blocking our airspace and our sea. So to get to any foreign country first, I have to take a long, many hours trip from Kiev to Poland by train and then to fly to other places. So of course I try to combine visits to various important places in one trip. And I came here from New York, where I attended the General Assembly and Security Council of the United Nations. It was a very long flight. I spent the whole day and changed many time zones. And I will go from here to Africa and then back home. But it's true to say that for the first time in our history, Ukrainian diplomacy led by President Zelensky is attaching great importance to visiting countries of Asia, Africa, and we are not focused only on our immediate partners in Europe and North America. So I'm always happy to visit friends and partners, and that's what I'm doing here in Pakistan.
Is wheat something that you will be discussing? Because you brought it up yourself that, when we needed it in the past, Ukraine was there.
Absolutely, yes. Grain, what is happening now in global affairs is Russia's attempt to destabilize global food markets and make prices go up. Russia withdrew from the Black Sea Grain Initiative facilitated by UN Secretary General and Turkey. Russia bombed Ukrainian ports. This Black Sea Grain Initiative was ensured that Ukrainian grain could be shipped by the sea to Asia and to Africa, our main points of destination. That helped to keep bread prices under control. Russia withdrew from the initiative, but moreover, Russia immediately bombed our ports with missiles, aiming at destroying our infrastructure, which makes it physically very difficult to even load ship with grain. And just 2 days ago, Russia bombed one of our ports and 60,000 tons of grain burned down. This grain was designated to China, and it's a big amount of grain, but Russia preferred to burn it down, just not to allow Ukraine to export it. So Russia will try to benefit from high raising food prices in the world by increasing its own exports to the global market. So basically, this is how they are trying to remove competitors and from global market and benefit by pulling more money from the pockets of consumers in Asia and in Africa. So in the end, it will be an ordinary man in Pakistan who will have to pay more for a loaf of bread because of what Russia is doing. And this is unfair, this is called blackmail, and this is something that must be stopped. So of course I expressed my hope in meetings with Pakistani officials that Pakistan will stand firmly in defense of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And I received assurances from my counterpart, Foreign Minister Zardari, that he will be engaging with respective stakeholders to make the outflow of Ukrainian grain continue.
जी नाजरीन, यहाँ पे लेंगे हम एक छोटा सा ब्रेक. We'll be right back. Welcome back, नाज़रीन. हम गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं यूक्रेन के फॉरेन मिनिस्टर्स. Minister, because you've sort of spoken about, the cost of flour and how wheat and how Russia's actions are increasing it. But this is the way a lot of analysts look at the Ukrainian-Russian war, that basically this war will come to an end if the costs are so much for Europe that they take a decision to not support Ukraine or sort of start, efforts to stop it, or the costs go up go up for Russia. It's as if Ukraine, is not really the variable, if I may call it, in terms of how this war will end. Is that how you see it?
Well, these analysts do not take into account one thing. Europe is paying very high price because this war is happening in Europe. When they make the point, when analysts you refer to make the point that to end the war it's enough to stop supporting Ukraine, they are lying. Because the true thing they are saying, and I will translate them from their analytical language into real language, and the real thing they are saying is this: we want other countries to stop supporting Ukraine so that Russia will be able to kill more Ukrainians very quickly, to destroy Ukrainian statehood, and things will get back to normal. So every analyst who says that he believes the road to peace lays through stopping the support of Ukraine wants Ukrainian women and girls to be raped, Ukrainian civilians to be killed, and Ukrainian state to be destroyed. And if they are and if they are so smart, they have to speak openly and not hide behind beautiful, smart phrases. And second, is other analysts in Pakistan who believe that problems should be solved at the expense of Pakistan? Probably not. So who gives them the right to say that the war that Russia launched, unprovoked war of aggression launched by Russia against Ukraine, should be solved at the expense of Ukraine?
Then how do you see this sort of, the outcome of the war? Where are we headed? Where are the two countries headed? Where is the world headed? How will we come to?
We are fighting. We are fighting for our independence, for our right to be who we are, for our identity, for our right to run our own country against a much stronger and bigger enemy who claims that we do not exist as a nation, that we have no right to have our own state, and who argues that we should belong to them and they should decide our future. We, as any other sovereign nation, including Pakistani nation, we want to decide our future. And this is a just war, a war of defense. It's justified by the UN Charter, as we exercise the right to self-defense. And Russia tried to destroy us. It failed. And it will eventually fail in this war as well. They will lose this war, but it will take time.
And do you think there is any hope of any negotiated end?
Well, you know that President Zelensky last year proposed peace formula. It's a comprehensive 10 steps plan to settle the conflict with full respect to Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and to solve problems caused by the aggression in the area of environment, energy, economy, and humanitarian consequences. So this political process is underway, but everything we see from the Russian side is their hunger for more war. Almost daily missile attacks on our cities certify that Russia is not thinking about peace. It's because when you want peace, you do not behave like this.
And what about your membership of the European Union? There's again an effort to fast track it, but there are problems. There were problems earlier also. What were the hurdles earlier, before the war started?
Well, we made breakthrough in our European integration last year when the European Union granted Ukraine the status of EU candidate member. We plan to open accession talks by the end of this year. Ukraine will be a member of the European Union. This is decided. It's just a matter of time that Ukraine and the European Union have to undertake to prepare for membership. The reason why it happened only after the war started is because for many years Russia was sparing no effort and money on corrupting some European officials, politicians, not in the European Commission, but in some member states, trying to not to allow Ukraine to integrate into the European Union. Once these capitals got rid of Russian influences, all decisions became very easy to make.
But there is also sort of concern, for lack of a better word, that in terms of the sort of perhaps the democratic values and legal frameworks that you needed were not there earlier. In order to be part of the European Union, countries have to meet a certain democratic standard. And then obviously now there is also concern by some Eastern European countries in terms of the economic issues, because obviously every time a new member comes in, there is talk about money, who's going to get what. Are these issues that you think will stop the process now or slow it down?
Well, I think it's absurd to accuse Ukraine of the lack of democracy. We're actually fighting and dying for democracy. And if you speak with an EU official or government officials of EU members, they will all say that Ukraine is fighting for European values and Ukraine is fighting for Europe. So I think this is rock solid. In terms of money, you see, I'm sure you are knowledgeable of the situation inside of the European Union. So even while being inside of the European Union, member states still have discussions about money. So it doesn't matter whether to have this discussion being outside of the European Union or inside. There are still discussions about money. When it comes to economy, of course, the free trade, deep and comprehensive free trade between Ukraine and the European Union has been in place since 2014. And our economy is largely already integrated with the economy of the European Union. There is one big issue that will not be easy to solve, but we will solve it together, which is the agricultural market, because in terms of agriculture, Ukraine is a superpower. And of course, we will be negotiating with some member states and accommodating their concerns, and they will be accommodating others. We will find a solution because political decision was made in Europe. Ukraine is part of Europe. Ukraine will be a member of the European Union. Once decision is made, there are no problems which would be impossible to solve.
जी नाजरीन, यहाँ पे लेंगे हम एक छोटा सा ब्रेक. विल बी राइट बैक. वेलकम बैक नाजरीन. हम गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं यूक्रेन के फॉरेन मिनिस्टर से. You've just mentioned that you're coming from the US. There was talk recently about the US, transferring jets to you, aircraft for warrior jets, and then obviously cluster bombs also. Is that something that you were there to discuss? So that's just again, stories in the press?
No, I was in the United States, but in New York at the United Nations. So my trip was focused not on our bilateral agenda, but on the global agenda. And I did not pay a bilateral visit to Washington. We spoke in the UN, we spoke about grain deal, about return of thousands of Ukrainian children who were deported and abducted forcibly by Russia from Ukraine. We were discussing with the United Nations how to return civilian prisoners, because Russia is a very vicious country. They steal children and civilians in order to use them as bargaining chip. So that was this focus. But indeed, F-16s is a very important project for us. We need them not only to use them in the combat activities against Russia, but also to provide security to ships carrying Ukrainian grain. So when Ukraine receives F-16s, it will be for the benefit of global food security, because we will protect all vessels carrying Ukrainian grain from our ports to global markets, to Asia, to Africa, and other places.
So once your visit to Pakistan comes to an end, how do we judge how successful it was? What will we hear in the press in the coming days that will, so at least the people sitting here will say, now we know. This is what happened.
No, you will text me a message saying how was the visit perceived by the people of Pakistan. But I want people of Pakistan to know one thing. Thousands of kilometers away from here, there is a country that is very friendly, that is fighting for the right cause, that will prevail and will continue to advance its relationship with Pakistan for the benefit of both our nations. And that country is Ukraine.
And just the last question, so have you had time to have any Pakistani food?
Yes.
And how did your stomach hold up to it? You have to be very honest, okay? You can be very diplomatic with all the other answers, but not this one.
Very, very, very honest. It was, first, I love spicy food. And second, I love exploring new food. So I have had lunch hosted by my counterpart, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, and everything I ate was delicious. Chicken, and especially mouton, was exceptional. And in the end, I was served a dessert, your national dessert. And although my Pakistani counterparts complained that when made at home it's much tastier than the one we were served at official lunch, I enjoyed it enormously, and I'm looking forward to trying the homemade version of it. I forgot the name. It's like an ice cream with noodles or something.
Kulfai.
Kulfai. Yes, Kulfai. Yes. So I'm looking forward. I still have some time to go, and I will try to taste the original version of it. Food is delicious. People are very nice, and I'm really enjoying this visit so far.
Thank you so much, Minister, for taking this time out for us. And I hope the interview is enjoyed by the people as much as I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best to you.
नाज़रीन, आज के लिए बस इतना ही. Now we will be back on Monday.